Welcome, Dr. Calvin Tibbs with you, the relationship doctor, focusing in on championship couples. We're in part number 3. So whether you're listening live or you're listening to the podcast of it or the reproduction aspect of this, listen, this is good information. It's awesome information if you are a championship couple. Now, understand this is what we do here. Right here, we help people love and live their life's most meaningful relationship. In this case, we're talking about marriage relationships. Of course, if you're dating, this is going to benefit you as well because you're preparing to be a championship couple. So let's dive right in to what a championship couple is. Well, let's start with a championship. A champion is a person who has defeated or surpassed all rivals in a competition. If you're listening to this live, the NBA finals are going on. It could be later that the NFL finals or Super Bowl playoffs are working. Could be that Major League Baseball is in the playoffs or even NASCAR. It may even be hockey. I know hockey and basketball kind of work together there. Whatever the season, whatever the sport, there is an opponent that must be defeated or surpassed, all of them, in order to be considered the champion. When you move this into relationships or couples who are champions, it's the same thing. You as a couple, you're designed to defeat all rivals. But what's the competition? Life. It's in life. And we'll take a look at the enemy that, if you will, puts pressure on life here in just a second. And I want to focus really, just before we get further into this, on that enemy, because that enemy you're very familiar with. I hope you can guess it. No, it's not you. It's surely not your spouse. It's the I in team, which doesn't exist. Okay, so the I in team is a problem because there is no team. There's no team. It's team, T-E-A-M. The I's got to go because the I is the enemy. There is no I in team. Okay, so let's deal with this rival, because to be a championship couple, we're defeating the rival of I. And that's a requirement for every couple. Now, in a previous session, we talked about defining what a win is for you and your spouse, or you and your significant other. Assuming you have done that, if you haven't, you want to go and listen to that because it's very strong information so that you know whether or not you're actually winning. Scoring touchdowns and scoring, let's just say, getting the checkered flag, night and day, folks. There are no checkered flags in football, and there are no touchdowns in NASCAR. So the team has to work together, you and your spouse or your significant other, at defining what a win looks like for the two of you. So assuming you have done that, once you and your spouse have defined a win, then teamwork should look like that. I'll say that again. Once you and your spouse or significant other have determined what a win looks like, then teamwork looks like that work. All right, let's talk about that some. So teamwork sounds like togetherness. Have you ever heard the sound of togetherness? I don't know if you've ever walked into an environment where it sounded happy and everybody was having a good time. It could have been a birthday party or an anniversary, perhaps even a holiday. There's just the sound of laughter. You can hear it before you even get into the room because there's an atmosphere that accompanies the sound. And if you're celebrating a person, everyone who is there is excited, it appears at least. But more important than that, I want to tell you that teamwork sounds like togetherness. And you know what that is to me? It's unity. It's unity. And if something pops off that's not unified, you can tell because teamwork has a sound. See, all the words may not be the same because in a party atmosphere, a celebratory atmosphere, in a time where we're celebrating Christmas or Thanksgiving, those sounds are varied. You got the music, you got the uncle, the aunt, the mother, father, children, you have cousins and relatives and friends. Everyone's having a different conversation because using different sounds to express, but the sound of unity, the sound of togetherness is so clear that you don't even have to be a part of each individual conversation to know that teamwork is working. In your marriage, there's a sound of unity. You know what that sound should sound like. In fact, you can kind of feel it, but we'll talk about what teamwork feels like in a minute. But right now, I just want to deal with the sound. Do you and your spouse have sounds that only the two of you know? Like, and your spouse knows exactly what that means, or yeah. See, there are certain things that only a couple should know if you've been together long enough to know. Teamwork has a sound, and that sound is the sound of togetherness. It's a sign of unity. Now, please know this: unity builds strength. Unity builds strength. Now, I know that there are some people who are of the school of thought that the couple have to be tested in order to verify unity. I understand that. But constant testing inside of the relationship is never really the goal, because you didn't come together to test one another. You came together to bless one another. And if in that blessing there is no unity, then there is no strength, because there's always something. If it's not one thing, it's another. That should not be the definition of what happens in your relationship, because teamwork has a sound. You know what it sounds like? Unity. All right, you locked in on that one. All right, let's go to the next one. Teamwork also looks like something. Teamwork looks like agreement. And agreement is what happens when there is an understanding, a deep understanding. I don't know if you are a football fan or a baseball or a basketball fan, or you don't even like sports, period. But I like to use sports analogies because they give such great illustrations. You may or may not remember the days of Michael Jordan out of the University of North Carolina, drafted by the Chicago Bulls. He hit the winning shot in the Final Four for his college team to win. We're talking about agreement. Now he's in Chicago, and they're doing pretty good, but they have to go up against the bad boys out of Detroit. And the Pistons were not interested in agreeing that Mike was all of that. He was, but they were not in agreement because they were all of that. They had already won a championship, and it was really the Pistons and a lot of Celtic activity and against the Lakers as well. But when Mike finally got a revelation of how the team needed to move to the next level, you know what he got in agreement with? What? I'll tell you. Training. He got in agreement with training because Michael began to understand, looking at film, that he was getting knocked around. So what he did was he went in the weight room. Mike got buffed up, and little Mike, which some people in the league called him, wasn't little anymore. Mike had biceps, triceps, quads. Mike came to play at another level because he was in agreement with what he understood. See, teamwork brings understanding. Teamwork brings agreement. That's why the first order of this, if I were you, is to make sure you and your spouse know what a win looks like. Because if you don't know what it looks like, teamwork won't be able to get in agreement. Because you'll think she's happy when she's not, and she'll think you're happy when you're not, because you've not gotten an understanding. All I can tell you is Mike went on to win 6 Super Bowls. My goodness, wrong team, wrong sport. 6 championships with the Bulls because he was in agreement with what it took. And you got to know there was a point that he wasn't in agreement with that anymore. He wanted to go play baseball. This is around about the time that his father was passing and leaving, and Daddy said, "Do you?" He did. He came back to basketball. He enjoyed baseball, but it takes time to get an agreement with what a curveball looks like, and a fastball, and a changeup. It takes time to get an agreement with how you're going to hit that thing. So it wasn't that he wasn't skilled, but he spent more time developing in basketball than he did in baseball. Well, in your relationship, when you deal with teamwork, it looks like agreement. Now, let's not look like it's agreement in front of everybody, but behind the scenes, there's arguing and frustration and bitterness. Let's not do that. Behind the scenes, what does it look like? What does it look like in your relationship? We're talking about championship couples now. We're not dealing with just any kind of couple. We're talking about championship couples. If you're going to surpass all rivals, one of them is the I in team. There is no I in team. Both of you have to get an agreement with the understanding that if we're going to win together, we've got to agree. Does that make sense to you? Maybe you have to buff up. I'm not talking about just to look better. I'm talking about maybe you have to buff up your submission. Maybe you have to buff up your compassion. Maybe you have to buff up your willingness to grow. When you show up this time and the environment comes against you, it can't win. See, that's what Mike did. By the time he got buffed up, it was too late. In fact, when he finally came back after moving into that 6th championship after the baseball thing, he came back very agreed, focused, and understanding exactly what he wanted to get done, and he got it done. What do you want to get done in your relationship? Whatever it is, if you're talking about championship caliber relationships, you got to overcome you. You have to overcome words. You have to overcome memories. You have to get an agreement with where you're actually headed and understand what it takes to get there. So that's what championship couples do. Couples that are lame, they just keep living the same lie. I mean, they're doing their best. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not implicating you because I don't know what you are particularly going through. But I'm saying if you just let it keep floating without a motor to move it forward, or without a rudder to direct it, and you just putting up with her, or you just putting up with him till the kids, get old enough to leave. Listen, that habit is without understanding. Because you think you're just going to turn it on when you get to relationship number 2. If this is your goal, I'm going to tell you what you're in agreement with. Selfishness. And if you stay in agreement with selfishness long enough, you will attract that. And so where you think you're leaving Gilligan's Island to go to Paradise Island, you're taking you with you. So as a championship couple, work out where you are. There's not been one person yet that has been married more than once that I've talked to. Now, you may have talked to some, but when I talk to couples and get insights from them and try to help them, usually there's never been a time when the man, I'm talking about the men now, didn't say these words. The first one was the right one. I wasn't mature enough. Something like that. I'm not saying that if you're married now, leave and go back to number 1 if you're on number 6 or 5. I'm talking championships. All I'm saying is get it right now, because the one that you're with, you need to be in agreement with where the two of you are going to defeat all rivals. And I'm not talking people fighting your mama, your sister, your cousin, competing with your old. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the environment that is putting pressure on your relationship. What we want is understanding, because teamwork looks like folks who understand what this is all about. Because after a few babies, maybe the husband gained some weight. Maybe after a few babies, maybe the wife isn't as interested physically. Maybe after a few babies, all the attention is on Junior and not on one another. See, understanding couples agree that there are many different aspects of life that causes life to win in this marriage. This is what championship couples do now. Couples who lose, the guy goes in the corner and he pouts because he doesn't understand about postpartum depression that the wife goes through. Couples that lose don't understand how to work together through menopause when it's too hot and it's too cold for her, usually. And actually, there's some evidence that there's something called male menopause, where guys go through a sense of hormonal changes as well. Championship couples agree that teamwork looks like understanding. You may not understand in your 20s, and if you're too quick to the draw, you get rid of it and won't learn what you should have learned in your 20s until your 40s. And by that time, you might be the one that's on the outs. Don't go through all of that. Teamwork in couples, championship couples, look like agreement, and agreement comes out to meaning I understand. Understand. Learn to understand. Don't just learn. You want to be understood. Learn to understand. You with me? All right, great. Let's keep it moving. Teamwork feels like strength. Teamwork feels a certain way. Teamwork feels like strength. You know, when life is getting going and you're in your teens, you feel invincible. If you're a lady, you probably feel so pretty, ain't a thing that can stop you. Eating French fries ain't bothering you right now because it feels good to be strong. And if you're strong, there is the perception that that power is going to last. Well, it indeed will, until you reach certain places where the hormones don't make you feel like you used to feel. And the power is not what it used to be, so you won't take a nap. And don't think this don't happen in your 20s, because it does. You know, according to all the scientific people, hormone levels, testosterone being a hormone, begins to drop. And that's why you go to work, you don't do the things you used to do when you were single, and now you're married, and you're just sitting on the couch, you know, watching, clicking and flicking. The fact of the matter is, teamwork feels like it was when you had that strength. Because two are better than one, because they have a greater reward for their effort when you're working as a team. See, the goal is to defeat the rival, not your spouse. The goal is to defeat the rival, not the person you want to get married to. So the unity that comes from what teamwork feels like causes there to be a strength of resolve that this is going to be all right. You're going to face storms. You're going to face championship encounters from things from the environment that they've already won. They've already eliminated that couple, and they're working on that couple, and now you're next. I'm gonna tell you what teamwork feels like. It feels like you're gonna make it in spite of the challenge that just took place. It reduces the strength that's coming against you by the power that's coming from you. See, when you recognize that your championship caliber as a couple is to work together, it feels like strength. And if you have strength, you have power. And I'm gonna tell you, one of the powers you always want to draw from if you're in difficult times is the power of a good memory. Draw from why you came together to begin with. My friend, my brother, my sister, draw from why you said I do. It'll give you power. It'll feel like strength. Draw from the many days you've come through things that perhaps the spouse helped you come through. Or if you're dating, your boyfriend or your girlfriend helped you come through. Feels like strength. See, that's what teamwork feels like. So we looked at what teamwork sounds like, what it looks like, and what it feels like. In the last half of this, let's take a look at what teamwork flows like. Teamwork flows. If you really see a team working together, there's more than one person making it work. If you move to the football analogy for a second, you know, these championship teams, like last year, based upon when you're watching this, the LA Raiders win. And they win with a first-year quarterback, Matthew Stafford from the University of Georgia, who leaves Detroit and goes to McVay, who is the coach, who is also from Georgia, at Marietta to be exact. And they work this thing out, but they're not alone. They got Von Miller on the defensive side to help out with Aaron Donald, to help out with Jalen Ramsey. I mean, you got a lot. You have an offensive line there, big, thick guys, big, thick brothers, right? I'm talking people as brothers, not just who's African-American, because we're actually one race, one blood, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. You put that together, that's the Indian, the Asian, and the African-American. We really are related. So don't let the enemy, the environment, mess with your team. The fact is, all of that went together to help Matthew Stafford lead his team, but with a whole lot of help. And so it is with you. What are all those unsung things? Here you go. That causes you to flow. See, it's not just the bomb down the field. It's not just those celebratory times, Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day and birthdays. No, 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 no. There's a flow that happens long before the big superlatives begin to show up. What's the flow of your relationship? Whatever it is, it gives you momentum. Yeah, championship teams need momentum. Sometimes momentum works against you. Sometimes it works for you. Right now, let's get it to work for us. And how do you get it to work for you? A good memory. Yeah. See, a good memory will cause you to flow beyond the disagreement, because teamwork flows like a river. I don't know if you've been in a strong current before, talking about water. There's not much you can do but go with it. We've been on some whitewater rafting times. Thank goodness we stayed in the boat, in the raft. But I've seen people whose faces changed when the flow changed. They were in charge when they were in the boat, but when they got thrown out of the boat, their face changed because they were no longer in teamwork. They were in opposition with a rival, the current, the strength of a river. Your relationship should flow like a river. And when it does, you have momentum. Begin to build an awareness of momentum based upon things you see that are working well, things that you see that are working right. And a good example of that is you aren't divorced. If you're working on a divorce, stop working on it. Get back in the flow. Get back in the momentum of oneness, because championship teams defeat rivals. Momentum is a friend. Every sports organization knows when Mo is working, some people call it being in the zone, you can't stop it. I remember the time I was that way, specifically playing basketball, pickup games with some guys in the Air Force. And, I was at home, I think during the summer, and me and my cousin, he took us there. And I'm telling you, 30 this game, 28 this game, 15, 40 that game. Well, not quite 40. I think it got about 38, something like that. But there was no stopping. There was no stopping the flow. So it is in your relationship. Learn how to keep things moving in the right direction. Don't get good at drama. Just don't get good at that. Break that flow up. But when you're dealing with momentum, teamwork flows in your marriage like a river. That's what you want. That's what you're after. Okay, let's move to the next one. Teamwork functions like clockwork. We work in our organization with something called clockwork items. It's like a process whereby automatic shouldn't even be thought about. Dr. Dean Radke came up with this. And these clockwork items are items that you set it and forget it. Like in your relationship, you don't argue past 15 seconds. Clockwork, lock it down. Well, you didn't finish getting your point out. It don't matter, because you're not developing a flow, just talked about that, a momentum where you are antagonistic. So teamwork functions like clockwork. We agree with one another. We agree that I love you and you love me. We agree in clockwork items, because clockwork items synergize us. Synergy is when the parts together are a greater sum than the individual part. If you are trying to get something done with one finger, you have some power. Put 5 fingers together. You have synergy. You have greater strength when your relationship is operating off of clockwork items. It should be understood that you love your spouse. It should be understood like clockwork that your spouse loves you. It should be understood that you forgive your spouse. Like clockwork, your spouse should forgive you. Because when you're in clockwork, automatic, you're in synergy. And you need synergy in your relationship because you came together to be as one. You didn't come together to be as two. The two shall become one. The oneness of that power together to becoming one multiplies the strength. Championship couples defeat the rival of me, myself, and I. It's mine. Well, last time it was yours. No, see, that's not clockwork. That's a broken clock. That's a cuckoo clock. You want to have a clock that works synergistically. Everything you do is together. What you're working out is together. It's not just fix your plate and go sit down. Fix her plate. Uh-oh, fix his plate. Why don't we work together? You have your napkin? You have your fork? You have a tray? Well, she can get it. I know. If she keeps getting it, you will move out of the synergy. If she keeps having to do her own thing, the momentum that was previously established like a river is now going to give way to a cuckoo clock. You don't want to have a cuckoo relationship where it's all about you and it gets developed more and more and more. We want the momentum of the river to move into synergy. It just works like clockwork. Your relationship is humming, baby, because you know who you love. You don't have secrets going on. You don't have little things that you're hiding. You love because you're a champion in a championship couple relationship, and it's working. All right, final item, then I have some homework for you, is teamwork tastes good, like Thanksgiving should. Teamwork tastes like Thanksgiving dinner. I don't know if you even celebrate Thanksgiving, but there's a reason for being thankful. If you're married to a person that loves you or gave you some children, or if you're married to a man who gave the seed to produce those children, there ought to be some Thanksgiving. And teamwork tastes like Thanksgiving dinner. And if you look at Thanksgiving dinner, there's a lot going on at Thanksgiving. There's the turkey, usually. Some people get other things, you get what you want. But for me, using this reference, Thanksgiving is normally with the turkey. And typically I make it because I put it on the grill and watch it and stuff it with stuff, experimenting and see what tastes good. And even if it did taste good last year, I'm using something different because teamwork has a taste. There's the taste of unity. There's the taste of variety. There's the taste that causes the memory because of the nose. According to scientists and people who work in this area, the nose is the greatest memory sense that any of us has. Not your eyes, not your ears, not even the touch. It's the nose. Well, the nose works with the taste, and the taste is connected to your will. So if you will look at your relationship through a Thanksgiving lens, then you be thankful for all the variety. Here you go, including the things that may not taste so good. You know, maybe you all have had arguments or disagreements or infidelity or something has gone wrong and it doesn't taste good. But I tell you what, there's enough to eat to cause the taste to be sweet if you work as a team. If you work to crush rivals, the past, the issues of the past, you're going to love tasting the goodness of a championship couple relationship. Does that help you, Cubs? Okay, good. So those are some great illustrations that teamwork can produce, because teamwork has, if you will, a sound. It has a look. It has a feel. It has a flow, and it has a function. Finally, teamwork has a taste. Put those together and just think about them. And you get to go over this again and look at it and see maybe it's not tasting right because the wrong ingredients are being used. When you're on Thanksgiving, you always put the right thing together, right? You don't experiment at Thanksgiving. I know I just said I did with the turkey, but those are flavor profiles. I'm not putting charcoal inside of the turkey. I'm putting food group items, food combinations. And so in your relationship, you want to do the exact same thing, because championship couples, they always defeat the adversary, the rival, the environment. You surpass them, and you get that done very easily. Now, here's your takeaway. Wow, we're almost out of time. Number one, I want you to take away the pirate principle. The pirate principle. The pirate principle. What's that? Awareness, resource, and responsibility. Now, in our coaching, we go over this in depth. Become more aware, become more resourceful, and start being responsible. That's the core of it. There's lots of depth to it. Don't have time to go into it because we're out of time. But it's not out of time for you to join the free Facebook group at the Relationship Doctor on Facebook. You know what else is not out of time? For you to go to calvintibbs.com for a bunch of free resources. The first of which is a strategy session for you and your significant other. Also at calvintibbs.com, you can pick up this Coach Your Way Out free resource to help you in your relationship, because that's what we focus on. And in the event, just in the event, you know somebody who is about to get married. You're already married, so this isn't so much for you. It could be great conversation, but if you're not married, send somebody over to calvintibbs.com and take that Man-Made for Marriage survey. Very, very powerful because of what it does to promote conversation, which creates narratives, meaning things that we're going to think about and talk about. When you do that enough times, you'll understand where your course is headed. And then the final thing there is to check out your purpose. Why are we here? Why are you here? Well, you're here to do the thing that you do. And the thing that we do here, you don't want to know what we do? What we do is we help couples. We help relationships. We even help spiritual relationships that have run aground so that people will love their life's most meaningful mission. And today our mission was you as a championship couple. We'll see the next time we get together with the Relationship Doctor as we enjoy helping your relationship become all that it can. See you soon.